we had, I guess, basically an understanding very quickly that we needed help in testing. And the best way to do that is to look at people who have that capability and that capacity to do some of this fancy molecular testing. And prior work with some of these groups had shown who we could work well with, who was interested, and we sort of leveraged those prior conversations. So locally, there were a couple firms in Utah that are working on some molecular platforms that have potential marketability and some private sector work. So I engaged them and said, where do you stand on the development of some of these and how can we help? And we, as the Public Health Labs, were the first group to really see swine flu and have the assay to actually test it. So of course we have the samples, and these couple local firms were interested in those. And everybody heard this little phrase, emergency use authorization. What does that mean? What does that mean? And we have some experience with what an EUA is and how to get it. So we approached these people and talked to them about our needs, looked at what their potential needs were, and they wanted to play. We did some work, as I think you and I had discussed before, with the military. They have a handheld instrument that they use in all of our theaters, as the military calls those places where soldiers, sailors, and airmen are. And they wanted to get that platform up and running to test for novel H1N1 or swine flu as well. And because we've been working locally with these groups, a couple of firms I mentioned, then the Department of Defense said, okay, how are you doing this? And we didn't liaison directly with the FDA, but we had an idea of what they needed to get their instrument approved. So we provided panels. So a panel of 100 samples of various influenzas, seasonal H1s, H3s, some influenza Bs, and then of course the novel strain that was circulating. And we stayed as the gold standard. So we didn't tell them what was in the panels, nor did we tell them what was in tube 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they went out and played with their new instrumentation and figured out what they thought everything was, submitted them to us, and we unblinded everything and told them how good they were. And from my standpoint, first of all, it's good for my scientists to know what's going on in the private sector. It's good to have these outreach capabilities and capacities. It's good for us to be able to talk with scientists that are moving ahead in different fronts that we may need to be in sometime in the future. So that was very helpful. Secondarily, we needed the surge capacity, that public health phrase that we all talk about. We really needed the ability to have new platforms out there that are functional, to take some of the heat off of us, to take some of the heat off of those other partners who help bring the samples to us, which are like the Highway Patrol and the local health departments. And that's especially important in my state because I'm a big state that doesn't have a state-funded courier system. So consequently, we rely an amazing amount on the goodwill of anybody with a vehicle that can bring us samples in an urgent, emergent manner. So I would say now because sort of the word got out, we're working with a firm in New York City right now and providing validation panels to them and some of the lessons learned. And it's been very gratifying to me, but it's also, I think, very helpful to the larger community that we exist in. All the APHL members, and each one of our labs has we have things we do great, things we wish we did better, and I'm doing my little part as part of that big APHL membership group out there.